And I think I've told this story on the channel before, when I was a little 11-year-old going on a school camp with my middle school. We went to the south of France. I lived in France, so it's not that big of a distance. And one of our activities was a little scuba diving session. So I had the instructor take me underwater into this boring patch of just nothing, just sand, and out of nowhere, he pulled out an octopus. Now, I'm not a proponent on touching sea life, but I was 11, I didn't know what was happening, and my instructor hands me an octopus. I look at this octopus in my hands, and my whole world changed. I was like, yes, this is what I'm going to be doing with my life. I want to be an instructor, and I want to give people octopi. I knew from that moment that my mission is to do things underwater. I was very lucky that my parents heard my passions and they were like, sure, why not? And I was lucky enough to be able to get my scuba diving license when I was 12. I dove into the Great Barrier Reef back in 2008 and was met by the most magical, breathtaking, but you have to always keep breathing when you're scuba diving, sight that I have ever seen. The coral reefs, the colors, the turtle, the little shark I even ran into and then screamed and basically ran to my mum. It was something different. There was something so captivating about seeing this underwater world that I just knew this is where my life's work is. Let alone the fact that I was born landlocked, let alone the fact I spent my whole childhood skiing and in the snow. I knew the Great Barrier Reef, Australia, the ocean is where I'm meant to be. Luckily enough, now, what is it? Too many years later, and I'm living just next to the Great Barrier Reef, and I get to do this for work, and it's absolutely mind-blowing. That this idea I got when I was 12 stayed with me this whole time. A couple years later, I pestered my mum again, like, Mum, can we please go to Australia? I want to go back and see what university I'd like to study physics in. Because yes, I ended up studying physics because I thought that marine biology and marine science wasn't a viable option. I still had that whole, you have to go to uni to make money with a viable career. Why I thought physics was a better option, that's a story for another day. But I convinced my mum again to take me to Australia, and we got to go back to the Great Barrier Reef, dive into the beautiful water, and was this the same place I had been just 4 years earlier? Yeah, it was the same company. We were diving on the same coral reefs. Why did it look so different? In that moment, everything I had been hearing, everything that they had been teaching me in school about global warming, as it was called back then, about the impact of human activities on nature, about repetitive travel to a certain spot, about the carbon emissions, about physical destruction from storms and everything. I saw it with my own eyes. I was 16 years old, and I was looking at a coral reef I had dived a mere 4 years before, and it was unrecognizable. And in that moment, I had a thought. If this is how the coral reefs change in the 4 years since I started diving, in my tiny little scuba diving career, in my tiny little life, in my tiny little perspective, what did the reefs look like 20 years ago? What did they look like 50 years ago? And scarier still, what will they look like in 10 years? And that's what started this all. From that moment, even though I studied physics at university, even though I went down different pathways, I knew that my mission in life was going to be protecting our oceans, was going to be doing everything I could to try and make this a mission for all of us to get into. And that's why I went into scuba diving in the first place, because as a diver, every time you dive below the waves, you are met with magic. And it's magic that we want to protect, and it's magic we want to defend. And together, we can. And that's how Ocean Pancake started. And in the past 4 years, I've been able to talk to so many incredible people. And I got to talk to all these ocean experts from across the world. And every single interview I did on the Ocean Pancake podcast reinstilled this fire, this desire to do something. I did a diploma of sustainable living a couple of years ago, and there was a really serious aspect of climate change grief that I encountered. It made me feel helpless. It made me feel like what I did on a day-to-day life didn't matter. It made me feel that what's the point of putting in all this time and effort to trying to minimize my own carbon footprint when people around me don't care? I mean, in the towns that I live, I get laughed at for bringing my own cup to the coffee shop. They still make comments that I eat plant-based. They still look at me funny that I, would put my veggies straight into my basket rather than a plastic bag. And it's these little things that started making me feel a little bit down. But then going to talk to people whose life's mission is to protect our planet and marine animals and sharks and sea creatures, it reinstills that hope. And I hope I can do that for you. I hope if you're somewhere where people look at you a little bit funny, like, why do you care about our planet? Who cares anyway? We're all gonna die. Climate change is inevitable, or climate change isn't real. You're not alone. We are here and we can make a difference. Whether that is by voting with our money, choosing what we buy, choosing secondhand, people still laugh at people wearing secondhand clothes, don't know what they're doing. Choosing sustainable options, voting for plastic-free things, voting for our councilmen, our elected officials, or simply liking and sharing a video and sharing our love for the ocean. Because the more we get to know something, the more we spend time underwater or in nature or wherever, the more we know what we need to appreciate and what we are working to protect. So that's my little story about how I came to be an ocean conservation YouTuber, podcaster. If there's something you believe in, if there's something you want to do, get out there. Don't know how we got into this tangent, so serious, but I'm so glad that you are here and that you've taken the time to watch this video.